Hello students, welcome back in your physics class with me Shraddha Shukla. I know you all are enjoying at home, but keep following the safety rules, okay? Students, in the last class we had discussed about force and its effect on different things such as the speed of the object, the state of the object, whether it is on rest or in motion, and what is its effect on the shape of the object. So and at the end of the topic we had discussed three important points, that is force in same direction adds up, force in opposite direction is subtracted, and net force acting on a body is always equals to the difference between the two applied force on that body. Students will discuss further about this topic by using a numerical. Okay, suppose we have an object, we have a box. Okay, we are applying a force amounting 5N. N is the Newton. It is the unit of force which will be introduced to you in the higher classes. Okay, so 5 Newton force is applied in this direction, and another force 3N is being applied in this direction. So now you have to find out, the question is, you have to find out what is the net force acting on this body, and the second thing, what will be the direction of displacement of this body. Okay, so the question is, what will be the net force acting on this body and also find out the direction of displacement. I'm going to solve this for you. Okay, so I'm going to rub this question. Okay, so as I told you, the net force acting on a body is equal to the difference between the two applied forces. Here the two forces are 3N and 5N, or you can say 3 Newton and 5 Newton. So let me just give them symbols. Suppose F1 is equals to 3N and F2 is equals to 5N. Now if you remember the formula, the symbols for the formula, this formula, net force acting on a body. Okay, so I'm going to write down the formula directly. Fn is equals to F1 minus F2. Okay, now what is the value of F1? That is 3N. Okay, now what is the value of F2? It is 5N. Now students, here the greater one is subtracted from the smaller one. That is why the quantity will be negative. Okay, so the answer is 2N. Now you can see easily here that the net force acting on this body is 2N. But what is this negative sign showing? Well, it is showing the direction of displacement of this object. We have given the positive, we have taken the positive direction, the direction of F1, and we have taken as negative direction the direction of 5N. Okay, so here we are taking F2, or you can say 5N with negative sign. Okay, so you can see here is also a negative sign. That means the displacement is being in the negative direction, or you can say the direction of F2. Okay, so the object will be displaced in the direction of F2 or in this direction. Okay, there are two more points we need to discuss about them. The first one is, what will be the effect of force on mass? Students, since mass is an inherent property of any object, so there will be no effect of force on mass. Okay, now number 2, we have discussed about the effect of force on speed. It can decrease or increase the speed of any object, but how? Students, we all love to swing, but that fun swing tells us so many things about this force. When initially the swing is at rest and you push it gently, it starts moving. Okay, now if you continue to apply the same amount of force, gradually the swing starts increasing its speed. Okay, why? In fact, you are applying the same amount of force again and again. Why is it so? It is because you are applying the same amount of force in the direction of motion of the object. Okay, so here I can conclude as the speed increases if you apply the force in the direction of motion of the object. Okay, now the speed decreases. When will it decrease? The speed decreases if you apply the force in the direction opposite to the direction of motion of the object. Okay, so the speed decreases if you apply the force in the direction opposite to the direction of motion of the object. Okay, so this was the rest part of the last topic. Now we are going to discuss our first topic for today's class, and that is friction. I have already prepared the board for you so that it doesn't take so much time. So we need to discuss friction. Students, friction is an ever-existing opposing force to the motion that acts when two bodies are placed in contact. Or the other definition is, friction is an opposing force that acts when the two bodies are in relative motion with each other. Okay, now what is relative motion? I'll tell you. See, I have this duster. Okay, now what is relative motion? Relative motion is a motion of an object with respect to the static or moving object. So suppose my hand is at rest right now. Okay, it is in static state or at rest, you can say. Now I have to move this duster. So the duster is moving but my hand is at rest, so they both are in relative motion. Okay, so friction is an opposing force to the motion that acts when two bodies are in relative motion with each other. Now, since students, this force of friction exists almost in our every activity, even in cycling, running, walking, in every activity of ours. Okay, so it is very important to study about them. Now let's discuss the types of friction. Students, there are two types of frictions: dry, external or contact friction, and the other is wet or internal friction. Since this type of friction is not in your syllabus, you are going to study about them in higher classes. So I am going to discuss today only about contact friction. Okay, so students, it is clear by its name that in contact friction, a body is moving over the other body or any other surface. Okay, the two bodies are in contact with each other, in actual contact with each other. Okay, students, contact friction is of two types: static friction and kinetic or dynamic friction. Okay, static friction. First of all, we are going to discuss about static friction. Students, static friction is a type of friction that acts on a body before it begins to move. Okay, suppose I have this duster on my hand and I am going to push it forward. Okay, but up to certain amount of force it will not move. What is stopping it? It is actually the static friction, which is preventing it. Okay, so before an object begins to move, the static friction is acting on it. So how can you define static friction? I'm going to write here. Static friction is this force of friction acts on a body before it begins to move. Okay, For example, a book placed on a table, okay? I'm writing the example here. A book on a table. Now, students, the kinetic or dynamic friction. In this type of friction, the object has started moving, okay? But there are two types of it, the sliding friction or the rolling friction. In sliding friction, the object is sliding over another surface. And in the second one, the first object is rolling over the another surface, okay? So, let's discuss about them. Okay, kinetic friction. There is just one point to remember in this type of friction, that the object moves over another surface. Another object you can write down, or you can write over another object or another surface, okay? Or a surface. Now it is of two types. First one is sliding friction. As I told you, in sliding friction, the object is only sliding on the other surface, such as this, okay? This duster is sliding on my hand, so the only frictional force that is acting on this duster is the sliding friction, okay? In this, or let me change this sentence, this type of force of friction acts when a body is sliding over a surface. For example, suppose you are dragging something heavy, a larger box which is very heavy, and you have to drag it. Okay, so you have tied a rope on it and you are pulling it. It will drag, or you can say it will slide on the floor. Okay, so in this type of friction, you have to apply the larger amount of force. Okay, so this sliding friction has the highest value out of all the frictions. Okay, this type of friction has the highest value out of all frictions. Okay, now let's discuss the other type, that is rolling friction. Students, in this type of friction, the object rolls over another body. Suppose you have a cylindrical pipe or anything, or you have a water bottle, you can just throw it on the floor and it will roll over the surface. Okay, so at that moment, the rolling friction is acting on that water bottle, because of which it will stop after certain time. Okay, so rolling friction, this type of friction acts on a body. This acts on a body when it is rolling over another object, or you can say, or over a surface. Okay, so students, these were the types of frictions. Now I am going to discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of friction. Okay, students, for friction we say that friction is a necessary evil. Although it is evil, but even then it is a necessary thing. Okay, why is it so? Why is it a necessary evil? Because it has some disadvantages as well as some advantages. Let's discuss them together. Okay, let's do a comparative study of both of them. First disadvantage is the energy is lost in overcoming friction. It is a non-conservative force. That is why the energy is lost. Okay, this loss occurs in terms of heat or sound energy. Okay, when you're dragging something, students, it is really noisy. Why is it so? Because the friction has converted the energy that we have given to it to drag. Okay, that energy, the friction has converted into sound energy. Okay, but what is the advantage of this thing? It helps us in gripping, holding the object with our hands, climbing trees or ladder. Everything is possible only because of friction. Okay, now number 2, it is responsible for wear and tear of parts of machine. Okay, that is why machine needs extra care. It needs greasing, it needs oiling, it needs to be cleaned up every day to overcome the friction. But what is the advantage? The nuts, bolts hold, parts of machine lock into it only account of friction. Okay, all the parts of the machine hold on their place only because of friction. Now, friction decreases the efficiency of machines. Okay, because the parts will get disturbed due to friction. Okay, now in winters, this is the advantages. In winters we get some relief from cold when we rub our palms together. Why? Because when we are rubbing, we are doing some work, and this work done is converted into heat energy due to friction, and that is why the heat energy is generated. Okay, and hence we get some relief. Students, even if I can write on this board, it is also due to friction. Hence friction is a necessary evil. Okay, in this way your chapter 4 has ended. The exercise will be provided to you through WhatsApp. Till then, stay home, stay safe.